Modular. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Thinking Modular. Today I have another ensemble from Reaktor where I'm going to explore the idea of frequency modulation through feedback. If you didn't see the previous video, you are welcome to check it out and also subscribe to receive your notifications. So let's start. I'm gonna show you this ensemble that I have here. I have a few presets here. Let's check another one. And another one. And another one. So I'm just changing a few parameters. Let's check another one. This is if I open the feedback. And let's check the last one. So I don't know if you could perceive, but there is a lot of variation going on these different presets, and it's always the same ensemble. The main idea of this compilation of videos is to try to explore this idea of feedback and also do a comparison to artificial intelligence. Somehow the circuit, the way that is based, it has some similarities. The idea then is that the result of these transformations you feedback by connecting on the frequency modulation. So at some point you create an integration, you create a communication in between models. All the models of the circuit are somehow aware of what each one is doing. So let's try to replicate this patch, because I always replicate the patch for you at home. Try to step by step do yourself in your own modular system or in another program like Reaktor or Max MSP. So I already have here the final chain. I always like to ping a stereo filter. So This is a filter that has two channels, and then it receives two inputs, and then I can connect the filter one on the left and the filter two on the right, and then I use a delay and I invert the connection. So at the end you have both channels in both sides, but with different time delay. So it creates a kind of a stereo field. So today I'm gonna use two simple oscillators. Okay, you can choose in between sine waves and triangles and pulses and a sort of combination in between. They are very simple, frequency, and then you have frequency modulation. Let's start by connecting my oscillators in the oscilloscope, so you can understand more or less what is a logic mix. Okay, so let me open the second channel. So I have two waveforms here. I can put them different so you can see. So let's bring a logic mix. A logic mix, you can find several models that work in this way. You connect two inputs. You have two inputs and you connect two waveforms, and then accordingly to the algorithm that you are working, you have different results. So if I choose the algorithm max, what is going to do is going to output the greater of both signals. So as you can see in yellow, this is the new signal. See, it's a combination of both. So you can also choose, you have different algorithms. You have the minimum, so is exactly the opposite. You just take the lesser one. And then you have ring modulation, that is a ring modulation in between both channels. So, but then you have the difference and you have the sum. Sum is gonna sum both signals, and then you have the difference is gonna subtract both signals. So at the end you also have different waveforms, as you can see. Okay, and this is good because, for instance, if my idea here is to try to create a kind of let's say a rhythm generator. Okay, so a comparator is very useful to create a rhythm generator, because a comparator just receives the signal and extract gates from the signal. So every time the signal go higher than the threshold, it opens the gate. For instance, now if I have my my sine wave on the first channel, if I connect on the comparator, as you can see, every time it crossed zero, let me put on yellow so you can have a reference of the zero. Every time it crosses the zero, it's gonna open again. Okay, and you can use it as a bipolar or unipolar. So unipolar means that it's gonna only open the gate on the positive direction. Okay. Now, the thing now is that if I connect these on the input, I have a very steady pulse, right? And even if I connect on the FM, I still have a very steady pulse without modulation, right? But what I want to create is a combination of, I want to create an interesting rhythm, okay? A polyrhythm in this case. So instead of connecting only one oscillator, I'm going to connect the result of these. And as you can see now, it's creating a different rhythm. So this is very useful. So now what I'm going to do is actually the result of these gates I'm going to connect on the FM of both oscillators. And now I'm going to open, and as you can see, I'm starting getting something that is not only a rhythm, but it has also a tone. Okay, so now I don't know if you can see, I'm pinking the filter, but the sound from the filter is is stable. There is no modulation that change the pitch to create different tones. So I actually am gonna use the result of this waveform, and I'm gonna connect on the FM. So as you can see now, then I can attenuate the signal. Good. Good. So now, basically, we have the essential components right now. Now I can, if I start changing, what this does is it's a kind of attenuator. So it's just gonna, if I put on 0, the first oscillator is gonna be on the 0 voltages, right? So by changing these, I can start creating different Good. So as you can see, perhaps what I want now is to modulate my comparator. Okay. But now is, as I told you before, the idea is to try to create a certain of intelligence. Okay. So perhaps I could connect here an LFO, right? And of course the LFO, even if I have a very complex waveform on the LFO, it will give me variation, right? Imagine the LFO do something like that. But the main idea of in order to create a kind of a logic or simulate this idea of intelligence, is that somehow all the modules, they need to be aware of what is happened with the whole system. So by connecting an LFO, the LFO, although is modulating the threshold, it doesn't really know what it's happened with the other two oscillators, or is what is happened with the mix, because it's just sending a sine wave or a triangle wave that is just modulating the threshold. And at this point, there is not a true integration, okay? This comparator has to reflect the signal. Like if my heart starts beating slow, it's gonna affect the other organs, right? So for these, they have to be all connected in a sense in this complex system. So what I'm going to use two things. I'm going to use a sample and hold, okay? And I'm going to use a clock divider. Here is the clock divider, okay? So first of all, what I want to do is the sample hold to receive the signal from the logic mix, okay? And of course, is going to be the sample hold that is going to modulate my comparator. I'm going to connect the comparator on the clock divider, okay, and this gate, the first channel, I'm going to connect on the gate, okay. So why I'm using the clock divider? Because now I'm going to modulate here, okay, and I'm going to open. So the sample and hold is every time it receives a gate is gonna freeze voltage at that point, okay. As you can see, it freezes here, it freezes there, it freezes there every time it receives a gate. So in order to control the speed of this change in the modulation, I can use a clock divider, so the changes, as you can see, they start happening in a very slow pace, right? So it means that every time I receive 15 gates, then it sends a gate and to the sample and hold, and the sample and hold then send the new voltage, as you can see. So if I put in 1, see that the changes are super fast. And I want the system to breathe a little bit, okay? Because otherwise it's going to be always chaotic, okay? So then, let's see. See, now it stays for there and then it changes. If I put this at 1, see, it's going to change very fast and it doesn't really let the system breathe. Good. Now with these I can start finding sweet spots by changing the amount of frequency, the amount of modulation in a threshold. I can also offset one of the waveforms, change the frequency. Okay. Good. Now, what I also want to do is that something that is gonna affect my my result in 2 ways. So, for instance, now I have my comparator connected in 2 channels, channel 1 and channel 2 of the filter. But perhaps if I want to create like different pings in both sides, and also change the pitch of the frequencies when the signals start entering in an audio rate range, I could use, for instance, connect one of the gates in the input 1 and another gate on input 2. Okay? And now, for instance, if on the 2 I put here 6, see how it is affecting in the left side, and so this is gonna ping the first channel every 19 and every 14. So let's try to find and mess around a bit with the system to see if we can find something interesting. Okay. So let's see. See, with these, by having different clock divisions, I can actually harmonize. So it's for these parts is perhaps it's useful if you track on the scope the range of the signal, because then you can tune your threshold in order to there is a lot of parameters that you can change, a lot of parameters that you can modulate, and perhaps try to find another ways to integrate the system and all these modulations in order to do a very complex logic behind, okay? It's just about messing around with the different parameters until you find something that you like. So that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. We can actually assume that this is a sort of intelligence. Sometimes we tend to try to control everything in music, but sometimes we can just be architects. It doesn't mean that you are not under control. You are just let it be influenced by the system, okay? And this, of course, there is a certain logic and a certain control in the way that you do your circuit, but of course the rest is about exploring, because you never actually know where it's gonna come out from the machine, right? And that's it for today. See you until the next video.